Hey everybody, how are you doing? Dr. Heldman here from Tech Talk Education. In this movie, this is part 11 of an introduction to PowerShell, which is a great scripting tool for use in the Windows environment, which has also been ported to the Linux and Mac. So we want to do a little bit more, learn a little bit more about it. This is one of the more important scripting tools that you need to have in your kit as you're experimenting and learning about information technology and cybersecurity, the others being Bash scripting for Linux, as well as Python scripting. So let's get started. This should be pretty informative and pretty fun. So let's run back over the idea of Windows services. A service or a daemon is a little piece of code that does some specific work for you on your operating system, and there are hundreds of them. It's amazing how many there are. But they can be stopped, they can be started, they can be restarted, they can be disabled. Some of them use special accounts to operate, others do not. Some are common and they just come up running all the time, and if you restart the computer they'll begin running. Others start when they're called upon. So this is the concept here, and we can use PowerShell to manipulate certain services. So I want to show you how to get into the services window, and I did a WinR, which brings up the run dialog, which you see here. And I've typed in the word services.msc. That stands for Microsoft Console. That console has been around for 25 years now. It was an invention that was designed to help you snap in everything pertaining to the Windows operating system into a central environment, and it's been leveraged over and over and over again. But in this case, it's a console, and it's a console specifically dealing with the services. So that's how I launched this. I just typed in services.msc, and I brought up this window, and I resized this window so that you can see it a little bit better. Now you have extended and standard views here, and I don't really use the extended view. There's not a lot that's filled in on extended, so that's fine. You can see that I've got Windows Management Instrumentation selected here, which we've talked about before, WIMI. And I could stop it and pause it and restart it, and you get a description here. But normally speaking, the majority of these services don't really have something like that in there unless they're specifically Windows oriented. If it's something for an app that you've installed or something like that, it's likely not going to have something filled in over here. So I just pretty much go with standard view. Now you should know that these little column headers here are sizable, so if you can drag it around and make some more space for yourself, you could also double click it like you can in Excel, and it'll go to the exact width of the very largest service name. The description is way wide, so if you were to double click that, it would go off the page, but you can look at the description for these things. Also, if you point to the description, it should come up and give you a tooltip that tells you what it does. So that's handy. Then it'll give you the status. Is it running? Is it stopped? Is it disabled? Is it manual? Some of these are manual. Startup type is manual, where there's a trigger start, meaning that something triggered this service to start. Others are automatic, but they're automatic on a trigger start or automatic altogether. And some are disabled, and some are just set to manual. Like here's one that's set to manual, the Windows Security Service. And then there's also log on as, and this is interesting because there are different accounts that are created by Windows when it installs. So these are accounts that are out there that are able to utilize the service. And of course the one account is local service. It's very big, but there are others like network service here, and here's local system. And I've monkeyed around in the past and had to create a service account that was used by the service. That got me into all kinds of trouble. Anyway, that is a service. Now let's say that we wanted to pick on, say, WIMI, for example. Here's WIMI, And WIMI is running and it's automatic. So the next thing you can do is you can right click and select properties here to bring up the property sheet for this service. And it tells you what it is. It's WIMI. It's running under the local computer account name. It gives you a brief description down here. That's the same one that's populated into extended. It tells you where this happens at, and this is important here because the main executable that runs these services is called service host. And you've got a TAC K and a TAC net services TAC P in here that's running. You could set it so it could be set to automatic, manual, disabled. Sometimes disabling a service is helpful when you're troubleshooting something, so that's the reason why it might be helpful. I could stop this service, I could pause it, and then you could do what's called resume the service. Here's your logon info, so this is going to log on as a local system account, or you could create a different account if you wanted to. I would just leave it alone if I were you. Here's some recovery, so what happens if this thing fails? What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and restart the service. And then I've got some dependencies. So this thing is based upon Windows Remote Procedure Call, RPC, and a couple of other things here, the DCOM services provider and the RPC endpoint mapper. So the main thing here, though, when I'm looking at the property sheet for the services, is that I'm interested in the service name. You can see it highlighted in blue here. It's Win Management, WINMGMT. We can use that name, and you can get that name from any service. So let's go look at, here's push to install. Go to properties, and its name is push to install, ironically enough. Let's look at just another one, the font cache service. Who knew you needed such a thing? Properties, font cache. So that's the idea. So the service has a name. It's launched by service host, and I guess if service host is corrupt, nothing's going to run. And so now I have the name of the service, so Win Management. So now let's jump into PowerShell and take a look at how we might use this in management feature here. All right, so here's good old PowerShell. I'm going to clear this screen. I can use CLS, which is the old Windows command prompt, or clear, which is the Linux command. PowerShell nicely obeys most Linux commands, not all, but most. And now what I'm going to do is create a variable name, and I'm going to say that my service name is going to be equal to tick, and I'm going to put in Win Management inside ticks. That's the reason that we want this name here, because that's how we're going to tell PowerShell that we want to target the Win Management service name. This is WIMI that we're dealing with, Windows Management Instrumentation. And so now if we just type out service name, we're going to see that this variable has been saved there, and it's pointing to Win Management. Now you remember that PowerShell has this idea of verb and noun. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell it that we want to get a service, and then we want to pass in the name of a service. I'll put it, and it doesn't have to be in proper case like this. You can get away with all lowercase typing. When you're reading books or whatever on PowerShell, you're going to see that they stick with the proper case name. And if you get, input back from PowerShell, something's not working, they're going to use uppercase names. By the way, I use camel case here, which is first letter is lowercase. This is a two-word name. The first word's letter is lowercase. The second word's letter is proper case. This is called camel case because you're going along, and here's the dromedary camel's hump right there, boom, and that's why it's called camel case. Now in this case, we want to tell it that we want to have it look at service name here. So I'm going to type in service name, and I'm going to have it get the service for me. Now all get service does is displays to you its status, the name of the service, and the display name of the service. So it would be very difficult to type out Windows Management Instrumentation all the time. so we can know about it as Win Management. Now we can do some stuff with this. So we could say stop service. And the name of the service that I'm going to stop is going to be service name, like so. And we stop it. Boom. Now it's stopped. So if I rerun the get service here and take a look at it, it says that it is stopped. Now I want to warn you that you're not going to get away with this on certain services that are critical to the operation of Windows, one of which would be the Windows firewall. You can go in and experiment around with this and see if you can stop the Windows firewall programmatically via PowerShell. Even running PowerShell as admin, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. So that is tricky, because if I'm a hacker and I want to get into a Windows system, one of the very, very first things I want to do is shut down the firewall and shut down Microsoft Defender. Now they're bundled together, but the idea is that I would want to be able to shut that down. And PowerShell, you might have to go do some extra digging to find out how to shut down that Windows PowerShell programmatically like this. You can do it through the GUI just fine, but it's more difficult to do it in PowerShell. Well, so if we stop the service using stop service, we should be able to start the service, yes? So we hit enter and go get our service category, and it says that it's running. I'll clear the screen. Also, we should be able to restart the service. Let me see if restart works. There we go, and that works. And we go look at it, and it is running. So that's the concept. But now what we can do is we can begin to compound two commands together. And so we can issue a command, and then we're going to pipe in another command. And that word pipe is actually what most people that work with operating systems call it. So the pipe key is above your enter key on your keyboard. If you've got a standard 101 keyboard, you look up above the enter key, and you'll see a backslash is the lowercase part of that key, and then we call it a pipe. P-I-P-E is the uppercase part of that. The pipe is a really common redirection operator, that and the greater than sign or the right angle. And so we're going to use pipe to redirect a command here. Okay, so let's see how we would do that. So we would say we want to go in and we want to get our service, and our TAC name is going to be equal to, I don't need to put in the equals, so just type in Win Management like this. Now here's what I'm going to do. I want to stop this service, and you saw me do it this way by using a PowerShell command, stop service. But in this case now, what I want to do is I want to stop that service. So I'm telling it to do two things. I'm telling PowerShell to get a service by the name of Win Management, and now pipe, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and stop the service like this. Boom. If I go back and I get my, you can see that it's stopped. So you could do the same thing by getting your command back here, and you could say start service. So that's the idea of Windows calls it pipelining, and the reason it's called pipelining is because this pipe key right here, this guy right here, is used to connect two commands together. Now you can also do some other crazy stuff as well. You could really get carried away with this. So let me go ahead and clear the screen here. I'll get the service and just clear the screen. Boom. Okay, now what if we wanted to just string a bunch of pipes together? That is very possible. So we could say Win Management into Win MGMT, and then I'm going to pipe in get service like this, and then I'm going to pipe in stop service. So it is possible to string these things together, and if I look at the get service here, I can see that it is, oh, I did the stop service, sorry. Get service, stop service, and let me look at the name of this thing. There we go, and we can see that it stopped. So it is possible for you to put all three of these things together simply by using pipe keys here to do the pipelining. Is that something you would do? Likely not. Now we can even go a little bit beyond this. We can do something that's actually pretty creative. So we can run Notepad, and then we can put in the services that we want to examine of a day, and then we could use that file in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go teach you a couple of commands in the Windows command system. So cd space / sends you clear to the back, clear the screen. And you can see now that I'm at the root of the C drive. I'm going to make a directory called test here. And then I'm going to move into cd into test. Now notice here that in the old Windows command is md make directory. In Linux it's mkdir. And so that is a little bit of a difference between the two commands. There are others. Here I am in test. I'll clear the screen. I'll do an ls. Nothing out there. I could do a dir, which is the old Windows command, and I see nothing out there. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen. Now I'm going to create a Notepad document, and it's very easy to do when you're at a command line. I'll just type in Notepad, and I want to tell it that I want to call this, let's call this services.txt, for example. Boom. Okay, and I will bring that up and bring it around for you. Okay, and here we go. So now the next thing that we're going to do, we'll put in a couple of service names here. So I'm just going to go ahead and proper case them. I'm going to do Win Management, MGMT, like that. I'm going to come down a new line, and I'm going to tell it that I want to also do Win32 time, like so. So I've got these saved. So you could have a whole string of these things if you wanted to. I click File, Save, or Control S is the standard key for saving. And I will close this window, and I come back to PowerShell. Now the next thing that you want to do is you want to test and make sure that that file's out there. If I do an ls, I'll see it sitting out there, and it's 16 bytes long. But what if I want to ask PowerShell what the contents of this file is? Well, it's get content, ironically enough, and we tell it our path. Now this is an interesting word, because what you're having to do is you're having to tell it how to go find this file. So the path is, in our case, is going to be C:, which is the name of the drive, / test, which is the name of the folder that we're looking for, and then we're going to call it services.txt. So we're telling it, get the contents, and here is the path that you're going to go down to get to the contents of this file, and it lists those two things out. So that's really groovy. We like that a lot. Well, now what we can do is we can pipe on a get services to this. So I'm going to hit my up arrow, and I'm going to pipe get service. So get service, of course, means we want to know the status of these services. So Win32 time is stopped, and WIMI is running. And so with this particular command here, this is very interesting now, because I'll leave this up on the screen here, because what we're doing now is we are leveraging the power of PowerShell to grab a file that we have created and do something with it. And you could start a service, stop a service. If you had, say, 5 or 10 services that you wanted to stop all at once for whatever reason, you could create a file like that, issue the command to stop the service, and then run it using PowerShell, and it would do that for you. Okay, that's all I have for this movie. I just wanted to get you more familiar with the idea of pipelining using the pipe command, also getting familiar with Windows services. They're very, very important, and some of them, of course, are more important than others. And so in the next video, we'll go down the road again with some more PowerShell, some more advanced PowerShell. I hope you enjoyed this movie. Thank you for listening to me rave on about it and rant on about it. And if you like these movies, please subscribe. Do me a favor and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. You're welcome to drop off comments. I am trying to grow the channel. Thank you. I am doing good. I'm getting a lot of new viewers to the channel, so I appreciate that. And you know what? I will talk to you in the next video. Have a wonderful and great day.